Welcome back, guys. This is the Rise of the East podcast. I am your host, Joel Francis, and this is episode 10, the Third Mithridatic War. I want to start off by apologizing. This episode has taken me a lot longer than it should have. But here we are, and sometimes war is of the essence. It was 73 BC. Mithridates ordered a chariot pulled by 4 white horses into the ocean. He was making a sacrifice to Poseidon. Next, he ordered a massive fire to be lit. This one was for Zeus. Rome now had enemies on all fronts: Sertorius in the west, Spartacus in Italy, pirates all over, and Mithridates in the east. It was the perfect time to attack. Mithridates ordered Taxiles and Hermocrates into Paphlagonia, and then he began his speech. Quote, "The Romans were driven by boundless greed to enslave everyone. Why did the Senate refuse to sign the peace treaty? Because Rome never intended to give us peace. They intended to break the treaty all along. Now this phony will of Nicomedes reveals Rome's lust to dominate us. The Romans are losing the war with our new ally Sertorius. Italy is ravaged by civil strife and slave uprisings. Because of their wickedness, the Romans have not one single ally, and not one of their subjects obeys them willingly. Look, 3 of Rome's noblest citizens are now at war with them and allied with us." Mithridates declared the third and final war. Lucullus and Cotta were the governors of Asia. They planned on attacking Pontus from land and sea. Preparing for this, Mithridates ordered Diophantus into Cappadocia. Then he made his way into Bithynia. Aristarchus moved the 400 fleet ship into the Thracian Bosphorus. Cotta had little to no clue what he was doing, as he was inexperienced. He sent one of his commanders on a mission to take a nearby position, while he stayed in Chalcedon. Mithridates' new army proved to be too much. They easily overpowered the enemy, despite being reinforced by 3,000 hoplites from Cyzicus. Mithridates killed 5,000 soldiers. As this was happening, Aristarchus attacked the port. He killed 8,000 sailors and took 60 ships. Leaving Cotta in Chalcedon, he moved towards Cyzicus and sent 40 ships to Sertorius. To his dismay, Sertorius was dead, and the ships were immediately ambushed. Metrophanes and Phanius attacked Lydia. After a while, they were repulsed. Eumachus attacked Phrygia. After killing more traders and citizens, the Tetrarch of Galatia, Deiotarus, pushed him out. At this point, Mithridates was at his height, and he decided to besiege Cyzicus. Lucullus had countermoved. He had an army of 30,000 foot and 1,600 horse. Appian states that Mithridates had 300,000 soldiers. We can all agree that this is too big. The number would have been no larger than 100,000. Mithridates put a small force at Tenedos, the local port city, and besieged Cyzicus. Lucullus sailed to Asia and immediately beat the force at Tenedos and pushed onward. The forces were about to fight. They lined up, and as the command was about to be given, a falling star landed between them. It was possibly a meteorite or something like that. Both of the armies backed off, and both of them interpreted it as a good omen. Mithridates, with the advice of Taxiles, blocked the road and prepared for the siege. He built siege towers, rams. He ordered mines to be dug and built another Sambuca, the same thing that collapsed at Rhodes. He immediately ordered 3,000 captured citizens. Mithridates was hoping they would surrender. Upon seeing that the city would not surrender, Mithridates killed the 3,000 citizens. The Sambuca was attacked. It worked for a while, but eventually the defenders rallied and forced the Pontic troops out. Mithridates attacked 3 more times that day, and all 3 times he was pushed out. And then Lucius Magius announced, "The 2 Fimbrian legions are about to desert. and will come over to you directly. What is the use of battle and bloodshed when you can conquer an enemy without a fight? Spartacus and Sertorius were dead, and Magius wanted to get back to the Senate. Mithridates agreed with him, which was a mistake, and moved the soldiers that were blockading the road. He had basically surrounded himself. Nonetheless, he continued the siege, and then a storm came and wrecked all his siege engines. Mithridates ordered more siege engines to be built. He also got word that one of the soldiers inside the town of Cyzicus wanted to meet with him. They met under the mine. As Mithridates got closer, the soldier raised his sword. Mithridates turned and ran. He shut the door right as the soldier swung. At this point, Mithridates was clearly getting desperate. His soldiers were starving, and his engines got destroyed by another storm. On top of this, the Cyzicans had usually sacrificed a bull, but they had sacrificed their last one. And then, all of a sudden, a bull came swimming from the mainland into the port. It was all falling apart for Mithridates. He ordered his cavalry back to Pontus. They were ambushed, and almost all of them were killed and captured. Cyzicus had been clearly a massive mistake. Mithridates decided it was time to flee. He sent his army on foot, and he left with his fleet. What was left of his army was ambushed, and Lucullus killed more and more. The army did make it to Lampsacus. Mithridates also arrived with his fleet. He gave some soldiers and 50 ships to Varius, Alexander the Paphlagonian, and Dionysius the eunuch. He himself with whatever he had left. Lucullus ordered Triarius to counterattack. He took some cities in Bithynia, and then overtook the 3 generals near Lemnos. They were sieged on an island. They fought fiercely and repulsed multiple waves of Romans. That was until Triarius attacked from land and sea. Dionysius took his life. The one-eyed Varius was killed, and Alexander the Paphlagonian was taken prisoner. Lucullus sent word to Rome. He said that Mithridates was beaten and victory would be theirs. This was clearly far from the truth. On the way back to Pontus, Mithridates was hit by another storm. He lost 10,000 more men, and he was only saved when Seleucus the pirate saved him. Lucullus entered Pontus. When he got there, his loot-hungry soldiers destroyed everything. A bull that sold for 10 drachmas was reduced to 1 drachma after the raiding. The once rich land of Pontus was destroyed by the Romans. Mithridates ordered messengers to Armenia and the Bosphorus. It's not clear if the messenger to the Bosphorus made it, but the one that was sent to Armenia did. Lucullus attacked the rich towns in Pontus, and all of them held out for their lives. At Amysus, the garrison charged out every day. They attacked the Romans' camp and challenged their soldiers to duel. At Themyscira, the Romans dug tunnels. As soon as the defenders realized this, they dug their own. Then they threw beehives at the Romans. As the Romans swung at the bees, foxes, wolves, boars, bears, and weasels were sent charging at them. The Romans gave up after a while, as anyone would. Mithridates ordered his son Phoenix to alert him when the Romans were coming. He did alert Mithridates, and then defected to Lucullus. Mithridates had amazingly gathered 40,000 foot and 4,000 horse. The army wasn't strong enough to beat Lucullus, but he could skirmish and annoy him. As soon as the armies came into view, they fought. Lucullus was forced back, and his cavalry commander, Pomponius, was captured. Mithridates tried to fight Lucullus again, but he wouldn't take the bait. His supply lines were stretched thin, and he couldn't risk a fight without the supply lines reinforced. Lucullus eventually moved his army to a nearby hill. When Mithridates learned of the situation, he sent some cavalry to stall the baggage train. Instead of stalling it, both attacks failed miserably. Lucullus's men arrived with the supplies. Mithridates decided he had another plan. He sent a Scythian assassin to Lucullus. The assassin couldn't get past the guards. Frustrated, he left. Another assassin was sent, and this time he got arrested. Lucullus and Mithridates skirmished about 3 to 4 times, both winning a few. But it was becoming clear to Mithridates that again he could not win, and his generals advised him to pack up. As they were preparing to pack up, the army got word. They panicked. Mithridates and his generals ran out, shouting every command in every language they could. It went from bad to worse. In the fray, Mithridates' best and lifelong friend Dorilaus was killed. With 2,000 cavalry, Mithridates made his way to Armenia. Lucullus declared that he had won again. After a while, a Galatian contingent caught up to Mithridates. Instead of being captured, the Poison King drew his dagger and cut a bag of coins open. The Galatians fought over the coins, and Mithridates continued on to Armenia. Mithridates ordered Bacchides to kill his harem. He would rather have them put to death than be captured by the Romans. Back in Pontus, Bacchides and the Seleucus the pirate decided to burn Sinope and take the loot. Lucullus did manage to save the city, but the defenders made it to Colchis. At Amysus, the general Callimachus had fought on, but it was hopeless now. He burned the city and left. Back in Armenia, Tigran allowed Mithridates to stay in a hunting lodge far away from Tigranokerta. Appius was told to wait for the Shahanshah, as Tigran was in Phoenicia. Appius waited a whole year. Eventually, the Shahanshah of the East showed up, with 4 kings by his side. Tigran sat on his gold throne. The 4 other kings folded their arms, and Appius was summoned. He read the letter aloud. Quote, "Hail Tigran, Lucullus, imperator of the Roman army and governor of the province of Asia, has sent me to take charge of Mithridates, who is to be brought to Rome as a prisoner and as an ornament of our triumph." Tigran was absolutely enraged. He announced, quote, "I will not surrender Mithridates. If the Romans begin a war, the Shahanshah will defend himself. You are dismissed." End quote. The war was now all the way into Armenia. Tigran had all the reason to be confident too. Upon hearing this, Lucullus immediately marched towards Armenia. A messenger came to Tigran telling him about the Roman attack. Tigran killed the messenger for disturbing the peace. After that, an earthquake in Syria killed 170,000 people. Many say it was an omen, meaning that Tigran wouldn't rule Syria any longer. Tigran camped in the Taurus Mountains, while Lucullus advanced onto Tigranokerta. Eventually, Mithrobarzanes, Tigran's brave general, finally told him that their greatest city was under siege. Tigran would have to leave his Arabian levies, but he could obviously do without them. Mithridates had also heard of this news. He sent Taxiles to warn Tigran not to fight the Romans. Tigran replied to Taxiles, quote, "If they have come as ambassadors, there are too many. If as an army, there are too few." End quote. And they were brave words, to say the least. Tigran ordered his cataphracts to rescue his harem and treasure. They broke the Roman lines twice and saved the harem and treasure. As Tigran moved his army onto the battlefield, he saw the Roman horse trotting in front of him. He ordered the cataphracts to attack. All of a sudden, Roman pila was thrown. Then Lucullus screeched, quote, "Soldiers, we are victorious." End quote. The cataphracts rushed back and attacked their own army. Tigran, confused, shouted, quote, "What? Are they attacking us? Are they actually attacking us?" End quote. His army completely routed. Mithridates was right. Instead of abandoning Tigran, Mithridates threw his cloak over his shoulders. They would live to fight another day. They rushed for the mountains of Artashat, raising a new army of 70,000 men. Now, Tigranokerta didn't immediately fall. The defenders under the command of Menelaus fought valiantly. Using Maltha, they burned many siege engines and soldiers. However, Menelaus made a mistake, and the Greek mercenaries rioted and opened the gates. Tigranokerta was destroyed by the Romans. Instead of actually defeating Mithridates and Tigran, Lucullus went into the kingdom of Commagene. He was once again hit by Maltha and retreated. Once again, instead of fighting the actual threat, he went to Gordini. The horse archers completely destroyed the Roman morale. Lucullus retreated to the Tigris, even though his soldiers were absolutely enraged. And then Lucullus marched onto Parthia. It was at this point that his army couldn't take it anymore and completely mutinied, and he was forced back to fall to Armenia. He made his way to Artashat. When he got there, he was met with a cavalry attack. It was fast, and Lucullus couldn't get a grip on them. They would melt away before any fight even started. By 68 BC, the Romans were essentially completely beaten in Armenia. It was also said that during this time, Mithridates met his horse wife Hypsicratia. She eventually cut her hair short and acted like a man, and Mithridates would call her by her masculine name, Hypsicrates. Lucullus went back to Asia. Mithridates, with 8,000 soldiers, made his way back to Pontus. He had completely risen from the ashes. At the same time, Tigran took his old empire back. Pompey was sent to take over what Lucullus had failed to do. They met in Galatia, and the two threatened each other. Some soldiers eventually calmed the situation down. Back in Pontus, Mithridates had killed 500 Roman soldiers near Cabeira. In the ensuing battle, Mithridates was hit in the eye by a dart and then in the knee by a sling stone. His Agarai healed the wounds and held him up in the air like Alexander the Great. When the surrounding towns heard of this, they all sent soldiers to Mithridates. Traorius also heard of this. He marched his soldiers in the direction of Mithridates. Mithridates ambushed them near the Iris River, and then retreated for the winter. When summer started, Mithridates attacked the Romans at Didasa. After this, he drew them out on the field of Zala. It was a horrible fight for the Romans. They lost 7,000 soldiers. Mithridates had suffered a sword wound in his leg during the fight. Once again, he was lifted in the air so his soldiers could see him. At this time, Pompey was making his way towards Pontus. But a wondrous thing happened. Thousands of soldiers went over to Mithridates' side. Roman soldiers. These soldiers had probably been angry at Lucullus, and Mithridates would gladly welcome them. Mithridates garrisoned his forts and waited for Pompey. However, Mithridates was old now, and he wanted to get peace. So he sent a letter to Pompey. Pompey responded, quote, by delivering up our deserters and surrendering at discretion. Mithridates brought the letter to his soldiers, but the army rejected the terms. And then Mithridates vowed that the struggle would be a united struggle to the end. Quote, no, I'll never make peace with the rapacious Romans. I'll never surrender anyone to them. I won't do anything that isn't for the common advantage to all. End quote. Skirmishers began all over the border of Pontus, none of which were really important. Eventually, Pompey pushed Mithridates further into Pontus. Mithridates used his cavalry to hold the Romans back. Then, at the Lycos River, he was ambushed at night. His archers missed their shots, and he lost 10,000 soldiers. With the last 3,000 men in his army, he armed them all like kings since he was still rich. They made their way to Colchis. In Pontus, Pompey encountered the turret folk. As they watched the Romans eat the poison honeycomb they laid out, they attacked and killed 1,000 Romans. Back in Colchis, I feel like I'm traveling the world right now, Mithridates decided he would cross the Caucasian mountains. It was a completely insane idea. It would either kill his entire army or save him from capture. While Pompey was trapped in Colchis, Mithridates rolled the dice again. He took the route through the Achaeans' land. Now, the trip itself is barely recorded at all, and it's nearly impossible to figure out what happened, but in the end he did make it. Machares, the viceroy of the Bosphorus, killed himself. He was in shock that Mithridates made it. Mithridates tried to get peace with Pompey again, and again he failed. Pompey was forced to fight the Iberai and Albanoi, fierce tribes in the Caucasus. The men and women fought side by side to the death. Along with the snakes in weather forced Pompey back. He turned to Armenia. Tigran decided his time was up. He made peace with Pompey. His borders were reduced to their original size. And in one of the most audacious moves in history, Mithridates planned to attack Rome via the Danube. As he ordered the construction of siege engines and a new army, his son Pharnaces revolted. In the past, Mithridates killed anyone that had revolted, including his sons, but this time he let the son off. And then the next day, Pharnaces revolted again and trapped Mithridates in a tower. Mithridates was hoping to get peace with his son, though, and he sent bodyguard after bodyguard down to Pharnaces, but he denied him each and every time. Mithridates, along with 2 of his daughters, killed themselves with poison. However, Mithridates wouldn't die. The poison had been halved by the children's amounts. Instead of being captured, he ordered his old cavalry guard Bituitus to kill him. And that's the end of this episode. Yep, it's another cliffhanger. Thank you for watching this episode. In my next episode, I will cover what could have happened along with Rome's reaction. You can visit my store at www.theriseoftheeast.com. You can find me on Instagram at LoneBerserkerYT. And you can also buy my book called Mithridates the Great, the Indomitable, and the Poison King, Rome's Deadliest Enemy on Amazon. See you all in the next episode.